everyone. Welcome to the Optimus Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Show. I am Nate Polvovgt, and I am here with my co-host, the one and only Mike Reedy, the man who gets to go see the banner hung at TD Waterhouse Gardens today in Boston. I am very jealous. Really cool arena. That's going to be a fun event, Mike. You're going to have a blast.
Hey, I've waited since 2008 for this. That was the last one.
Just a little brag. I mean, but to be fair, like Boston, these teams just never win titles. The Red Sox, the Bruins, the Patriots, like a long-suffering fan base finally getting to celebrate a title. You love to see it.
Because I'm old, I'll tell you, the 2008 season before they won the championship, I took my son, he was in grammar school, to like 5 games. And he said, "Why are we going to so many games?" I said, "Because they're going to win the championship and we're not going to get to go next year. Like, it's just not going to happen. We won't get tickets. So we're going now before they win." And then I would enter conference calls at the time. I worked for IBM, and I would enter conference calls with, "From the City of Champions, Michael Reedy." And people from like Chicago and Philadelphia would get pissed. It was funny because in a 2-year span we won all 4 major sports, right?
I remember.
It was a good time.
It was fun. I mean, I wasn't a Patriots fan, but all the other Boston teams, you know how much I love them, Mike. And speaking of love, we here at Optimus love winning, and one of the ways to do that in this weird fantasy football landscape heading into week 8 is to comb that waiver wire. We're going to get started here, Mike. Let's start off with some of these quarterbacks. Really, there isn't a whole lot going on the wire, but there are 2 guys I think we need to really be focused on this week. Russell Wilson, starting in Pittsburgh. There were a lot of questions how he was going to play. He was QB3 this week. So I think against a good Jets defense.
Looked really good. And that's
really good.
I tweeted something out there about it, and somebody said, "Oh, because he beat the Jets." The Jets have a great defense against the pass. This isn't like it was against the Jaguars. This was against the Jets. He looked crisp. I think we understand why Justin Fields was sitting. And if you have George Pickens, you must be so happy to have somebody who can get him the football.
I stacked him last minute in a showdown contest with Russell Wilson this week.
That must have been
big. I won some money. It was nice. But Russell Wilson is a guy that I really think if you're in a situation where you got Brock Purdy, he is not playing well. You drafted Patrick Mahomes. He is not playing well. And we'll get to that later. Russell Wilson is someone that you can pick up on waivers. You can plug him in and you can play him in week 8. I don't see any reason why not. Their matchups moving forward, they've got the Giants, Commanders, and Ravens the next 3 weeks. All of those teams are bottom half of the league against quarterbacks. This is a better offense now. And then another, you're going to love this one, Drake May, your boy. He's playing again. He's playing well.
Great. Yeah. He has 5 touchdowns in 2 games. And unlike Russell, he did play against the Jaguars. One of them, so he had a game against a really crappy defense. He gets the Jets this week. But the thing is, he's passing the ball a lot. He's moving his feet in the pocket and not taking so many hits as Jacoby Brissett was taking, at least. And he's made like Hunter Henry viable, right? So I think he's a nice add as well. He's produced 2 weeks in a row. Both of those guys very viable, especially if you've been trying to ride out Patrick Mahomes hoping that he'll score 20 fantasy points at some point in time and watching him make it to like 17 and being disappointed.
Well, and Mays opened up this offense for other players as well, because we saw KJ Osborne get a bunch of targets. Do we think that's something that continues, Mike?
The week before it was Demario Douglas. So he may spread the ball around, which good quarterbacks do, right? I'm okay with that. Most of the passes are going over the middle. KJ Osborne's another good route runner. So if the defense tries to take someone like Demario Douglas away, or he's going to move on to the next guy, which I like. I think the primary pass catcher who's going to be involved every week, and he might appear to be the second option, but every single week is probably going to be Hunter Henry.
Yeah. No, and I would tend to agree here. I really wanted to be able to trust Mario Douglas. We talked about him. I still think he's a good waiver ad even now, but he's a flex play.
But he's a flex play.
He's a flex play. Now the last one here on the list, we finally get to talk about him in a real way. He's actually starting. Jameis Winston of the Cleveland Browns, hyper targeted Cedric Tillman.
Yes.
When he came in, I think all 5 of his targets were to Tillman, but he looked good. And we know what Jameis Winston brings to the table.
He's going to sling it. He's going to, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I would be okay with any of these 3 quarterbacks if I needed someone either for a bye week fill-in or just to cover me. Quarterback's pretty deep position, but Winston's a guy who could end up top 10 the rest of the way fantasy wise. The Browns could lose every game and he could be a top 10 quarterback. I mean, it's
no question. I mean, he came in, went 5 of 11 for 67 yards, threw a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to get. Most games, you're also going to get an interception peppered in there.
Whatever.
But from a fantasy standpoint, the amount of yards and touchdowns this guy can produce the rest of season, again, like you said, Mike, top 10 quarterback.
His 30-30 season, what was it, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, something like that, whatever it was. I won, I don't know, like 7 championships with him as my quarterback that year. And people were like, he sucks, you can't. Dude, I don't care. Fantasy points. The guy's giving me 25 fantasy points a week. And you can't complain about that. That's so I'll admit I'm emotionally attached to Jameis Winston as well.
I've been rooting for this since last season.
Preseason we talked about it. Yeah,
we were talking
about this for a while.
I think I did say, like, I figured it was going to be like 8 to 10. I didn't think it was going to happen this way necessarily, though I can't say I'm surprised. Deshaun Watson never looked like he was really in that good a shape, right? Like, it didn't feel like the conditioning was there 100%.
He looked like he didn't care while he was playing. That's all it looks like. He looks like, I got money.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why that injury could have happened. I feel like conditioning was part of it. Herm's here chiming in the chat. What is up, buddy? I'll see you tomorrow night. Real life football doesn't always equal fantasy football. Let Jameis cook, baby. And that's the truth. Look, in the real world of the NFL, you really don't want Jameis as your starting quarterback. He's a liability. He turns the ball over. He's a wild card. This is the best option for Cleveland, and for fantasy managers, man, just go out and get him. It's probably going to cost you a bit because we're all really excited about this. Plus, I'm excited about David Njoku. I'm excited about hopefully unlocking Jerry Jeudy in this offense. I think it's good for Nick Chubb in this offense. It takes a little bit of the pressure off of him. I'm less concerned about re-injury.
It actually helps their defense a little bit as well because they'll actually move the ball somewhat on offense. I mean, I know he's going to turn it over, but it's going to be so much more fun too. I mean, if I was a Browns fan, I'd be happy about it, even if they don't get the wins, just for the fun. The fun aspect of Jameis Winston is off the charts.
Well, they've been chanting for this for the first 6 weeks of the season, so much so that they made him inactive this past Sunday to try and stop the chants.
They still had to activate him.
They still ended up having to activate him. We got Chubb's Burger, our boy Brandon here dropping in the chat. He wants to know, Mike, Winston, Nix, or Wilson rest of season in a league where interceptions don't count for negative points. Wow. I'm probably going to roll Jameis Winston, I think.
He doesn't have a lot of great wide receiver options, but hold on. Give me one moment here. I want to look at one thing.
All right. I think for me with Winston, it's just the upside.
Winston's upside's more. He has a lot of really tough matchups the rest of the way. He'll still sling it. I definitely am out on Nix, by the way.
I think he's viable in 2 QB, but that's
Wilson's rest of season outlook of who he's playing is a little bit better than Winston's, but not enough where I would say Wilson over Winston. I just think Winston's going to throw touchdowns. He's not afraid to just sling it down the field. then he's gonna. I think
Yeah.
he'll probably average more fantasy points per game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 5 from week 8 on the rest of the season. But we'll see.
Legit,
yeah, let's
have to be in top 10. That's what's crazy.
Oh, I know. It's insane. This is just such a crazy season. So now we're going to move on to running backs, Mike, and we're going to start off with Las Vegas wonderkind who couldn't get it done in Minnesota, Alexander Madison. Right now, he is rostered in 54% of Yahoo leagues, 42% of ESPN leagues. This offense in Vegas is terrible, but Alexander Madison is not terrible in this offense.
The touches are there, right? So, yep. I mean, they have to go up against KC this week, which is the toughest defense for a running back to go up against. He's not overwhelmingly awesome at any aspect of the game, Madison, but he does a little bit of everything. He's like a jack of all trades. So I don't think he has 100. He doesn't even have a 100-yard rushing game yet this season. No. But he seems to be getting between 25 to 40 yards receiving and like another, I don't know, between 60 and 80 yards rushing. And he's getting 19, 20, 23 touches a game. That volume's king, right? So you're looking at a guy who's probably going to get you double-digit fantasy scores the rest of the way. I had a friend tell me I was nuts because I was saying to play Madison this week in DFS. And with a lineup question, somebody asked me, and I said Madison over somebody else, and they thought I was nuts. But
no, it wasn't.
Look,
Zamir White's the volume's there. Zamir White's out of the picture. We're looking at Gardner Minshew because Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb, so we don't know how long he's going to be out. Yeah. You've got no Devontae Adams. Jacoby Myers didn't play. We don't know when he's coming back. There's nothing left in this offense other than Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
So the volume's
going to be there. It's going to be there. All the rest of the way. Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be pretty. The other one here I want to highlight, Mike, Ray Davis in Buffalo, 25% rostered in Yahoo, 14% on ESPN. We had an article come out last week where our own Kevin Tompkins said Ray Davis is a guy you need to be targeting on your waiver wires ahead of week 8, because when he has a big week 7 and he shows out, he's not going to be as cheap. A lot of people jumped all over Kevin Tompkins on the Reddit and said he was stupid. What are you talking about? Ray Davis is questionable. He's not going to impact James Cook. James Cook is an RB1. Folks, I would like for all of you to tuck tail and apologize to Kevin Tompkins because Ray Davis is a big part of this offense moving forward.
I had him in my weekend waiver wire article as an ad as well. Top running back ad. And, it's something you've been talking about again since the preseason. Like, eventually he's going to get involved. You were right. I credited you with that. I said I should have listened to Nate. But he's just not going to be there anymore. This was your last chance. If he's available in your league, in most of mine, he's already taken. He's not there.
Well, he didn't get a ton of work with James Cook, right, this week. 5 carries for 41 yards, but he got the goal line work.
Yeah, and
he's a
reception too, didn't he?
He had 1 catch for 6 yards. That's nothing crazy, but Ray Davis is a guy whose value is going to continue to increase. This Buffalo offense is starting to put it together. They look shaky most of the season. Davis can handle the short yard work. They don't need Josh Allen to do it anymore. He's now proven it. If James Cook gets dinged up and he gets a full workload, you're talking about a guy that could finish the week as an RB1.
Outside of Madison, who is rostered, and he's rostered pretty high, Madison over 50%. The only guy who's still available and under 50% is that I want at running back this week is probably Ray Davis. Unless people go and drop like Tyrone Tracy. I know they're going to. They're going to drop some other guys. But he's the only running back out there right now that I think is a viable ad that's worth your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, other guys we've got on the list right now, we've got JaMychal Hasty in New England. He's basically 0% rostered, Yahoo and ESPN. Tyler Goodson in Indianapolis, which that's more of a if Jonathan Taylor doesn't play kind of, and pray he gets a touchdown.
He's good Taylor doesn't play. I played him in a lot of DFS lineups this weekend because Taylor was out, and I would do that again. But if Taylor's back, he's irrelevant.
Yep. Oh, 100%. And then Justice Hill, you don't know what's going to happen with him every week.
If they're playing a team where they have to throw the ball, or where you assume they're going to have to throw the ball, he's a viable flex play, right?
Sure.
If they're not, he's useless, right? Like he's only going to get 4 touches, maybe 5. So
Sure.
it has to be in against a team with a powerful offense where you think they're going to have to pass the ball, or a team that stops them run exceptionally well and they're going to pass the ball. Although the same thinking goes to Zay Flowers, who had 1 catch for 19 yards or something like that last night. They spread the ball around really well. The Ravens.
Well, Mark Andrews got involved.
Talked about it a bunch of times, right? Like, yeah. Mark Andrews was viable again. That's right. Somebody has to not eat when others are eating.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I want to get into the chat here. We've got some very lively conversation centered around Alvin Kamara. The Goon Alchemist wants to know who he should try and move Alvin Kamara for. We've got Uncle Ted saying for Cooks. Do you think that's a trade you can make straight up right now?
Maybe. I don't know. I probably still want to keep Kamara there.
I would think so. How about Cooks and an added wide receiver? If you could get maybe like Trey Tucker back.
Not Trey Tucker.
Sean Tucker? Kamani Vidal? Would you have any interest in either one of those?
I have no interest in Sean Tucker. He's exactly what I thought he'd be. 5 touches for whatever amount of yards. Vidal's an interesting one to get there as a throw-in.
He is.
That I'd be more likely to take.
Okay, then we've got Paraiko wants to know, trade Brees for Neighbors and Pollard. I'd make that deal. We don't know. Yeah, Brees is going to be pretty up and down. Uncle Ted says DeMercado needs the ball more. I mean, it's Jonathan Gannon, so I don't know what to do, man. Roshan Johnson out of a bye is nice. Yeah, I'm going to be firing him up a little bit this week. I definitely do not hate that. But now, Mike, let's move on to our waiver wire wide receivers. This is an interesting group. The names are getting weirder and weirder. At the top of the list, we've got Cedric Tillman, who had what felt like a career week last week after Deshaun Watson went down, right? Just peppered with targets. Then we've got Romeo Doubs in Green Bay, who had a really good week last week.
You need to complain more, wide receivers. You need to complain more. That's all.
Yeah, right. Apparently get suspended for a week. And then we've got Jawan Jennings, who is available right now in a very banged up wide receiver room in San Francisco.
He'd be my top waiver ad, by the way, for the week.
Jawan Jennings.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. And then we've got Jalen McMillan, who did see some action. And then we've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's done for the year. Yeah. There's no way he comes back. No. Mike Evans.
Definitely done.
Yeah, Mike Evans. I mean, we'll see him again.
Evans is week to week. I have him rostered on a lot of teams, and I saw the tackle, and when I saw him holding his leg, I was like, "Oh no, that is not good."
No, it was bad. Then when you saw the replay and you saw how he got turned by the defensive back, yeah, no, that's Jalen McMillan's not a bad ad in this offense. Baker Mayfield has to throw the ball somewhere.
He was a slot receiver in college. So he's going to take over that Godwin role, and Godwin's currently the wide receiver 2 overall. So the target's going to be there. He had 8. He only caught 3 for 15 yards last night, but the volume's going to be there. So, I think he's worth a gamble on the wire myself too, or somebody people won't add, and you could add tomorrow after the waivers process. So
yeah. The last one here we've got on the list, this is my ad. Ricky Pearsall. Big Ricky Pearsall guy over here. And with the injuries and the fact that he was a first round pick, I think we're going to see him start to get worked into this offense. He had 5 targets on Sunday.
He and Jawan Jennings are probably going to be starting. Ayuka's done for the year. Debo has pneumonia, so we don't know when he's going to play, or, no idea if he plays this week or not.
He won't play this week. I cannot see a world in which he plays this week.
I can't see it either. I wish I had known this Sunday, by the way. But that's why I had Jawan Jennings at the top. Pearsall's right up there too, right? Like these are guys. I think they're better than the options in Tampa Bay. Let's put it that way. McMillan's going to get
Yes.
targets, but when we talk about tight ends, I think the other guy is probably going to be their top option down there. Where Purdy can put the ball in people's hands. I know people aren't happy with him, but man, in-game injuries killing that team. Just
Oh, they're brutal. I saw a really funny meme, GIF, video, whatever, and it said the 49ers injury report, and it was from that. Remember that game, Oregon Trail? Your whole team has died of dysentery. This is the rest of your season. This is what you have left. We do have someone here in the chat. This is an interesting proposition here. Uncle Ted saying Rashad Bateman has to be on that list of wide receivers to roster right now. He is not on this list. Mike, do you think he should be on this list?
He's going to be on everybody's list because he had one big week this week. I think he has 2 decent weeks on the season. The reason why I didn't throw him on the list, and I left it out there for you to do if you wanted. I know he's going to be on other lists. I've already read other waiver articles, by the way, and he's a top ad by everybody. Zay Flowers had 1 catch last night. Do you think he's going to just vanish and never have another big game? Lamar Jackson spreads the ball around. If you want a guy that you don't know when you should play him and when you should sit him, grab a Ravens wide receiver and pray. I mean, that's what they do with that offense. You want Henry, you want Lamar Jackson for sure. Man, MVP again. But everybody else is going to be up and down. That includes Andrews. I know people are all excited about him again for 2 touchdowns, but he didn't have a lot of targets or receptions last night either.
No,
he had 2 touchdowns. So I know Bateman had a big game. I would not rely on that to be consistent.
No, I've always liked Rashad Bateman, but in this offense, it's exactly what you're saying, where you don't know who he's going to throw it to. There's some weeks he's going to throw it like 10 times because that's all they have to do. The only reliable,
so good though. That's right. What makes Jackson so good, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. This offense is at the will of what Lamar Jackson decides to do week in and week out. There's no way for us to know that. Zay Flowers is a guy I want rostered. Rashad Bateman, there will be spot weeks. Zay Flowers gets hurt. Mark Andrews gets dinged up. Maybe I'll think about grabbing him as a flyer, but I don't want him on my roster long-term right now. He's just a clogger to me.
That's how I look at it too. And I know he's written up in other articles because I read them from much larger sites than ours. And yes. I think that's almost irresponsible, or it's too easy, right?
It's too easy.
Too easy.
We don't do easy here. We go deep. We go deep for you guys. And we have got a question here from the Twitterverse. Jason Quinn dropping in. Jason, it is good to see you. Thoughts on Tyrone Tracy rest of season? Nate, what do you think? Drop Tracy for Juwan Jennings? Oh, see, here's my problem with Juwan Jennings.
I say yes. If you don't, and you need the running back, which is harder to come by, Tracy will be viable again.
I wrote Tracy up in my waiver article. I didn't really feel like I absolutely had to, but I just wanted to make sure people know Devin Singletary's value is mostly dead. Tyrone Tracy with a healthy Singletary last week got the majority, was like 73% of the snaps at running back. So moving forward, yeah. And no, I wouldn't do it for Jalen McMillan. Definitely not for Jalen McMillan. Jason,
I think the volume will be there for McMillan, but I am concerned with the wide receivers in Tampa Bay with who's going to be the one that produces and who's not. Godwin out. If Evans misses time, once Evans is back, it'll even out more. But I think Baker's going to spread it around a little bit more than people expect.
He's going to have to.
I think the winners are White and Otten, and that's why I was saying when we get to tight ends, I think Otten.
Oh yes, no, we'll be. I love any chance to talk about Cade Otten. That's all. The real Geese Squared dropping in here. Is Nico Collins worth holding for 2 weeks if I lost Godwin yesterday while being tied for first? Wandale's my wide receiver too. Mike shaking his head. Yes, I am going to agree here. They're saying got offered a trade for Nico. Scary Terry straight up for Nico. Now here's the problem: is Jaden Daniels playing? Because Jane Daniels targets McLaurin, Marcus Mariota didn't so much.
If Daniels is playing, it's a good trade, especially if you need the wide receiver, which it sounds like you do. You lost 2. If Daniels is going to miss 2 weeks, you can wait. We need more info on Daniels.
Yeah, we do need more information on Daniels. So for now, I would say no. We also have Rithwik Rao Polanini. I think I said that right. Maybe. Over here on YouTube. I lost Metcalf and Godwin this week. My other options are Dell and Ladd. Which wide receiver should I pick up for long term? I'm 4-2. Metcalf's going to be fine. I'm not worried about DK Metcalf at all. Chris Godwin's done. Take Dell. Despite 3 targets, not a single catch in that game against Green Bay. Ladd McConkey, fairly disappointing last night as well. I need to know who's on your waiver wire, but of the guys we're talking about here for long term, it's probably going to be either Pierce Hall or Juwan Jennings for me. One of those 2 guys.
Yeah.
Go to that Niners wide receiver core. That's where you're going to want to be here. The real G squared saying, I have Brees, Josh Jacobs, and Jordan Mason. Does that change how you feel about that, Mike?
About
I'll bring it back up here.
About Tyrone Tracy or about the trade?
About the trade.
No, still the same.
No. Yep.
I would prefer to keep Nico Collins, to be honest.
Yes.
Chemistry with CJ Stroud's just insane once he's back. He's means so much to that passing game.
Yeah, and we've got one more here I want to address. Uncle Ted wants to know, why wouldn't you want a cheap piece of that insane Ravens offense? Because it's too unpredictable. And I understand where you're coming from with this, where it's like, you just want a part of that offense, right? I get that feeling. But with Rashad Bateman, he's not the part you want.
So one of the worst pieces of fantasy advice that I see out there all the time is, you want a piece of this offense because it's so high powered. You don't want the 5th option or the 6th option. You don't. No. And in this offense, in all honesty, he's probably the 5th option at best, right? So he's going to have a big game here and there. If you can stand having somebody who's complete boom or like utter bust of like maybe 1 or 2 points a week, have at it. Do what you want. But I try to plug in guys who are somewhat consistent with a much higher floor than his. His floor is 0. Mm-hmm. His ceiling is what you got this week, but his floor is legitimately 0. And he will see that again this season.
Yeah. Real G Squared also wants to know, is Khalif Raymond worth a pickup since Jameson Williams is getting a 2-game suspension? I say yes. I don't know how much Jameson Williams we're going to see rest of season. I mean,
yes, I didn't know he was getting a 2-game suspension. I feel out of the loop here.
PEDs.
What did I miss? Oh, God. Yeah, dummy. Yeah. He was invisible in that game against the Vikings, where, in all honesty, you can pass on the Vikings. I thought that there might have been a deep ball for him, but I like Khalif Raymond. He produces when he gets a shot too. And Goff trusts him. That's good.
Yeah, that's what you want. We've got Caleb D here dropping in, wants to know Etienne or Stevenson rest of season. Ooh, probably Stevenson.
Stevenson. Yeah, oh yeah.
It's Stevenson.
Yeah. And he's
not pretty
right now. His value is down right now. So I say Steve.
Here's another one from Herms in the chat. Tim Patrick, though, yeah, I have him in King's Classic, and I will be using him moving forward, well, at least for the next 2 weeks.
He's a guy I really like as a player. Man, how come he never seems to be super consistent? I just don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Tyler Sperry wants to know thoughts on Bateman, 6 to 8 targets in 4 straight games. Okay. I still don't think it remains consistent.
If you want to go for it. Yeah, I don't think it remains consistent.
Yeah. Caleb also wants to know, will Chubb be reliable rest of season? I think so.
I do too. This man's a machine.
He didn't really look held back. He looked like he was 100% on Sunday, so I'm not worried about him.
He did. I have him and I didn't play him. And I would regretted that. I still won the league I have him in, but I regretted not playing. I was like,
of course.
Damn it. I didn't expect this to be. I thought they might hold him back at least a little first game back, but didn't appear they kind of let him loose.
Yeah. Tyler does want to know, is Otten an auto start over Jake Ferguson? I kind of, at this point right now with that situation,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, no, I think he absolutely is. Speaking of tight ends, let's get into our waiver wire tight ends, Mike. This is a very short list. Hunter Henry, who we have already talked about, he is the number one target, most reliable target in New England for Drake May. We've seen it 2 weeks in a row now. He's the only one getting the consistent volume. Cade Otton is an ad. You look at the wide receiver situation in Tampa Bay. No Godwin, no Mike Evans for the next couple of weeks.
Some of us on this channel were talking about Cade Otton going into this week before anybody got hurt. Yeah, I think he's gonna be the top target in this offense for
him and Rashad White probably.
Yeah, I really think they will be. And then I think we'll see Mayfield spread it around with the wide receivers a bit.
Yep, and then the last one here with Tua coming back, Jonnu Smith in Miami. He's streaky,
very
streaky. But I think he's worth an ad right now. With Tua coming back, maybe he starts to gain some traction. We've seen McDaniel using him. Why not just keep that going?
Well, I want to see them use him like a fullback on the goal line, like they said they were going to do in the offseason. I was hoping for more of that short yardage.
Right. Maybe we'll get it. We've got Herms in the chat saying, he's screaming Jatavian Sanders. I think in deeper formats, if you got a bench spot, he's definitely worth an ad to see what happens. If you can afford to just hold him for a week or two.
Gray from the Kansas City Chiefs in a deep format is a good tight end ad as well. So like if you're Scott Fishbowl and he's out there, he's not a bad ad.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not a bad ad at all. Now, Jonnu Smith, though, really, do we think this is a week where he's viable? Or is this more of a stash him this week, see if he stays involved in the offense, start rolling him out in week 9?
If he stays involved. Speaking of Scott Fishbowl, I've had him there. I've played him. I've dropped him. I may try to add him again.
Why not?
I have a couple of good tight ends in Scott Fishbowl, so
that is of the utmost importance.
I'm not having a great season there, though. I'm like top 1,000. I'm usually like top 500, so I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, I didn't have a good week this week in Scott Fishbowl. Darn it. But speaking of dropping players, who do we think you can drop this week? Mike, I'm going to roll through this real quick. Patrick Mahomes, he's droppable.
Drop him.
Kluge from Football Guys was on it last week. He said that he was probably droppable. We wanted to see one more week, but I think now it's official. You can drop him.
People gave Dave a hard time over that. I was like, really? Dropping the guy who hasn't produced any fantasy points all year? It doesn't, come on. I know it's brand name, but drop him.
Yeah, no, 100%. Darius Slayton and Devin Singletary, I think, are droppable as well. Just drop them. Antonio Gibson, droppable.
Yeah, he's not
gross.
Highly rostered, but yeah.
No, but if you do have him, there were a lot of people who were adding him the last 2 weeks thinking, oh, come on, here we go. No.
He's had big plays in spot. Just spot here and there, like stuff. A 60-yard play. You're hoping he'd turn into something. He got hurt too. So this last game, that's how come J. Michael Hasty had such a good game. Drop him.
Yeah, I would get rid of him. Daniel Jones is definitely droppable. He was replaced by Drew Lock last week, so you can say bye-bye to him on your roster.
He was never addable for me. I mean, I know in the easy matchups he looked like he was good. It was who they were playing. Yeah.
No. So if you're still holding on to him, guys, get him off of your roster. Jordan Whittington, now that Cooper Kupp is officially going to play, I think Whittington is someone you can reliably drop off of your rosters. And then we're going to round it out with maybe a little bit of a hot take, and I think I've kind of explained it, but I think Jameson Williams at this point in the season, 2-game suspension for PEDs with the issues he's already had in the past, he's droppable for me. There's no reason to keep him on your roster. His value is dead.
0 shares, 0 cares. I have no JMO.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely droppable after that suspension. They're going to be reluctant to. He's off season. I mean, off field things are going to cost him his career. It's too bad.
Yep. Someone who almost had off the field things cost him his career. Calvin Ridley, is all hope for him in Tennessee gone?
I never had any.
I had a little bit.
No.
I thought maybe he'd end up being the wide receiver one there. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be D-Hop or Tyler Boyd, but it doesn't matter who the wide receiver one is there. It just doesn't matter.
Your quarterback can't get anyone the ball. It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter at all.
But he had 80% target share. Yeah, 3 targets.
It still doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Jason Quinn wants to know, Pitts over Ferguson is a starter for the time being.
I say yes.
Yeah, I say yes as well.
It's close, but I say yes.
Yeah. Well, let's pop over to the last segment here, our streaming DSTs for the week, so you can get to your game, Mike. We've got the Chargers up against the New Orleans Saints. That team has nothing except for Spencer Rattler. They might have Derek Carr back, but this Chargers defense is good. I want them against New Orleans. Then we've got the Lions defense against Tennessee. It sounds like it's going to be Mason Rudolph again. It should be a pretty ugly affair for Tennessee. I would fire them up. The Patriots against the Jets. With what we saw, the ineptitude of that offense, this is an offense I'm going to start to target in fantasy. I'm going to start the defenses that are playing them.
Yeah. They were dysfunctional before they fired their coach, and they're more dysfunctional now. Aaron Rodgers should not be your head coach and quarterback at the same time.
You'd be better off if he was neither, quite honestly.
You know, I added him on a fantasy team because I think he's going to produce fantasy numbers, but that doesn't mean, as Herm's already stated here, there's a big difference between real life and fantasy. He'll pad his stats, which is what he's most concerned about with his friends. It's bad news for the Jets, though. Just bad.
Yeah, no, it sucks, but it is what it is, I guess. I'm also targeting the Texans defense this week. They're up against Indy. I think the allure of Anthony Richardson is starting to wear off. And I'm going to start targeting him. He makes a lot of mistakes.
So in the preseason, somebody who was scouting the team said they had talked to cornerbacks on another team from a preseason game. And the cornerback said, oh, yeah, well, he's not throwing the ball to a person. He throws the ball to an open spot in the field and hopes that somebody makes it there to get it. And that's how come we intercepted him 2 or 3 times, whatever it was. And we've commented multiple times. I mean, I've called him Captain Inaccuracy in a written article. He's Justin Fields 2.0 is what he feels like. I don't know if he's as good as talent. Yeah, I don't know if he's as good. I think Fields is actually going to be a starter at some point in this league. Richardson is playing himself out of that right now.
Joe Milton or Anthony Richardson in Dynasty? Who would you rather have?
Oof. Oh, my God. Well, it's got to be Richardson. Milton?
I think Milton's a more talented quarterback. That's why I asked.
He might be, but I don't think he's ever going to get a chance. I think at least Richardson gets a chance.
That's a good point. Well, maybe he will. I don't know.
That's the real reason. Opportunity.
That's a fair point.
Milton.
Richardson could be out of the league in 2 years.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's how I view a lot of these guys that everybody goes crazy for. I
have very little Anthony Richardson in Dynasty. It concerned me that he was really only a 1-year starter at Florida. And then when you watch this film at Florida, it's like, yeah, this is Tim Tebow.
Have we not learned anything from Trey Lance? 1-year starter in college, had a great season, did these wonderful things, hits the pros, and it's not the same game.
Nope. It's not even remotely close. Now, the last defense this week, I want the Ravens defense against Cleveland, and I know that I'm really excited. We're all really excited for Jameis Winston. But as we talked about, dude makes mistakes left and right.
So interceptions.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of turnover upside in this game for the Ravens. So if you're looking for a defense on waivers, they're one I'd stream this week.
Well, and I don't know if they have the firepower to score enough points nowadays either, by the way. I mean, you might be looking at a team that can't push to 3 touchdowns with the Browns. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the turnovers will be there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, Cleveland's an offense I'm going to target rest of the season. I've been targeting them all season. It's not changing. A little more excitement about the offense, but not enough to not target every defense that
we
plays.
targeted them because we knew they couldn't break 15 points ever. Right?
Right.
So you knew that they weren't going to score a lot of points. But now you know they probably might score a few more points, but they'll have 3 more turnovers. So it's a wash.
All right, guys. With that, we're going to get y'all out of here. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in today. Remind you, tomorrow night, go Celtics. Woo. Tomorrow night, you can catch myself and the one and only CH Herms live roughly around 11 p.m. Eastern, but we'll see. Pop in whenever you want. We can't wait to see you. And then on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, the Nate and Casey show with special guest host, the one and only Michael Stoyanov, the first person to die in the Dark Knight. Pretty thrilled to have him. Good friend. I am in his home league, and he kicked my ass last week. So there you go. We can talk about that on the show. Then, of course, on Friday, we started off with DFS Live. That is me and Mike at 4 p.m. Eastern-ish, as with everything, you know. But we'll be there to give you the main slate deets, get you winning. We've been winning, and we want to help you keep winning. Then to wrap up the week on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, I will be live for a Q&A session. Drop in, drop those questions. We went for about an hour and a half last week. Consistent questions in the chat. So guys, tune in for that. We're here to help. And then, of course, every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, myself, Mike Reedy, and the rest of the team are dropping in on Reddit to answer your start-sit questions right up until kickoff. Hop over there, our fantasy football. It's a great subreddit. If you love fantasy football, you're going to get a ton of information all week. They've got AMAs from Fantasy Pros, Player Profiler, RotoWire. Kyle Dvorak is there once a week, and he's a brilliant brain.
The comments are also sometimes excitingly fun. If you think Twitter's vicious, Reddit makes Twitter look tame.
Oh yes, very tame. But that's all right. We love it. They're passionate about the game.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
And you got to remember that they love it so much, and they love us so much. Yeah. And we love you guys so much. And with that, we're going to get you out of here. I'm Nate Polvovgt. He's Mike Reedy. We'll see you on Friday, folks. Until then, happy waiver wire adding.